Hoops Heaven proudly brings to you Basketball Hustle, featuring your hosts, the writer, Chris Pike, and the scoring machine, Shawn Redhage. Now it's time for another episode of Hoops Heaven's Basketball Hustle.
Hello and welcome to another week of Hoops Heaven's Basketball Hustle, and the NBL Cup has now been run and won, and what a surprise. It was the Perth Wildcats that came out on top, and what a way it was to finish. We'll get onto that game against the Adelaide 36ers shortly. And now we're back to some form of normality with a home and away season recommencing in the NBL this week. And boy, hasn't there been plenty of news to get through, even though we haven't had some games to talk about this week. So much to get through. We'll have our TABtouch Preview as always. We'll have our Damo Award with Damian Martin thanks to Boomering. And, of course, the man that you've all tuned in to hear from, I'm Chris Pike, but the scoring machine, Shawn Redhage, is the man of the moment. You'll be back in action on the microphone shortly, Shawn. How do we find you this week?
Yeah, we're getting ready for finally a home game for the Wildcats. Looking forward to getting back to RAC Arena, 75% capacity. So slowly getting back to a bit of normality and getting the Red Army behind their team. So I'm looking forward to seeing some live action. We've watched a lot of games on TV over the last few weeks, but there's nothing like live NBL action to get back into things.
Busy day in the world of the scoring machine at the moment. We're recording this on Friday morning this week to release our episode ahead of Round 10 in the NBL, and I'm sure you've got some Redhage basketball work to do in between. And then, as we said, you'll be back on the microphone tonight for the game between the Wildcats and the Taipans.
Yeah, always good to be busy. We had the coaches forum last night, Thursday night down in Mandurah, so I was able to shoot down there and provide a little insight into my time as a player and also now coaching as well. So it's great to get out in the community, try and impact not only the players but also the coaches and hopefully having a positive impact on the game and yeah, back into our school sessions, our high performance. It's basketball is growing like crazy, and it's just good to see be a part of the game, and looking forward to talking about all things NBL this week. Yeah,
and boy, don't we have a lot to talk about. So the NBL Cup has finished. So before I get your thoughts on that, let's run through the results from the last week of the NBL Cup. So it went from Wednesday through to Sunday, so there's plenty of games to talk about. So it began back on last Wednesday night. The Breakers beat the Taipans 76-73, and the Southeast Melbourne Phoenix beat Melbourne United 97-92. Then on Thursday, we had the Brisbane Bullets beating the Adelaide 36ers 109-104, and the Illawarra Hawks beating the Sydney Kings 89-69. Then on Friday, the Perth Wildcats beat the New Zealand Breakers 85-75. Southeast Melbourne Phoenix beat the Cairns Taipans 85-81. Then a high-scoring one on Saturday. Sydney Kings over the Brisbane Bullets 119-108. And also the Illawarra Hawks beat Melbourne United 77-69. And then Sunday, Southeast Melbourne Phoenix over the Breakers 103-89. And the most remarkable of games, the most remarkable two halves really, the Perth Wildcats finished off beating the Adelaide 36ers 97-89. So what that all meant was the Perth Wildcats finished on top with a 7-1 record to take out the prize money. The Phoenix ended up finishing second to take, I think it was $100,000 after the Wildcats took out the $150,000, and the Bullets were third to take out the $50,000. What stands out to you, Shawn? What do you sort of want to comment on first?
Well, I guess I'm looking at the scores, and to have the Kings score 69 points against the Hawks, who probably aren't known for their defense, and then to score 119 a couple days later against the Bullets.
Not only they scored 71 in the second half of that game.
Incredible. And, the Bullets, you watch that game, they had that game in control. I mean, Nathan Sobey was knocking down everything. It just felt like it was going to be another comfortable win for the Brisbane Bullets, how they were playing as well. They've been, one of the hottest teams in the league. So, but the Kings, it's just kind of symbolizes what's happened this year and so many, up and down, get a win, get a loss, great first half, poor second half, and probably top that off, with the Wildcats versus the 36ers. One of the remarkable, I was watching that first half and almost ready to go out and pull a Jesse Wagstaff and start mowing my lawn because I thought the Wildcats lost. We're gonna lose that one. Didn't have a whole. I mean, obviously, you always have something to play for, but they'd already won the NBL Cup. I thought they were looking forward to finally getting home and sleeping in their own bed, seeing their families. But then they just had a remarkable second half, and I don't know, what was it, a 19-point run to start that third quarter. Just incredible when you giving up 60 points in the first half. It was it probably deserved to get the NBL Cup when you can come back from 26 down in the first half, 21 at halftime, and win by 9. It was an impressive performance.
How deflating is it for the 36ers, though? They would have been feeling so good about themselves at halftime. Brandon Paul had come out on debut and set things on fire in the second quarter. They were 26 points in front late in the second quarter. To then lose a game from that point, how deflating would have that been for them, as good as it was for the Wildcats?
Yeah, they would have been upset that there was any type of halftime at that game. They would have wanted to go straight into the third quarter as well as they were playing. But credit to the Wildcats making the adjustment. They just seemed a lot more active in the second half. You saw, a lot more deflection, steals, which led to some easy points. But then also, I think just the youth of the 36ers kind of shone through. They didn't have that veteran guy to kind of step up and say, hey, guys, this is what we need to do. Daniel Johnson is a great player, but, they just didn't have enough of those guys that experience what can happen when a team starts to get on a roll, what you need to do. And I think just the experience of the Wildcats probably shone through in that second half.
Now, I guess coming into this season and even through a lot of the first half of the season, a lot of pundits have been saying how this was the year for the Wildcats to drop off the perch. But right now, they won 7 of the 8 games of the NBL Cup. They were clearly the best team over the last month at the NBL Cup. I think there's a really strong argument you can make that Bryce Cotton and John Mooney are the best 2 players in the league right now. I think they deserve to be pretty strong championship favourites right now.
Yeah, you got to put them up there. I still think that the favorites are the United. I think that they've dropped some, losing that continuity with so many guys, I guess, being injured, now coming back. But they just don't seem like they're winning a lot of games, but we haven't seen their best. I think they're right now. Yeah, and I think that's because they're getting these guys back, and so they're losing that continuity. Yeah. But I think they're going to be there in the end. And I think the wild card there is going to be, what do the Wildcats do when Bryce gets his citizenship? Does that take them to that next level where they can I think they can still beat United with the lineup that they have, but I think it's going to help things a lot more if they can add an extra, say, a center or a wing player that can kind of take some pressure off Bryce Cotton and the attention that he gets game in and game out.
Yeah, I actually want to run a theory by you later in the show, Shawn, about a potential option for that import spot if Bryce does get his citizenship in time. So interested to get your thoughts on that. It's a theory that I'm going to run by you without notice, so I'll get your reaction later. We saw a couple of debuts on the weekend. Brandon Paul for the 36ers on Sunday was fantastic, especially in the second quarter, but he still ended the game with 25 points, and that was only after having sort of 1 or 2 training runs with the team and not being long out of quarantine. And Ryan Broekhoff as well. His very first possession on Friday night against Cairns, he knocked down a 3, but never quite got going in either game that he played on the weekend. And then he appeared to sort of ping a little bit of a hamstring on Sunday. We'll wait and see how he is this weekend. What did you make of the debuts of those 2?
Yeah, well, we talked about this a couple of weeks ago. I think it's going to take a little while for Broekhoff to kind of settle in and feel comfortable there at the Phoenix, and the Phoenix using him as well. He's not a guy that you just kind of give the ball to and he's going to go score. You kind of need to run some actions and create some stuff for him. A little bit like a Clint Steindl, where you kind of got to get, such a great shooter, but, he's not outstanding in a one-on-one scenario. So it's a thing where I think they're going to take time, and obviously the injury doesn't help things as well. But it's more a long-term plan with Broekhoff. Brandon Paul, I was impressed. He came in as a scorer, known as a scorer, and he produced. It's what the 36ers need. They just need to probably find some consistency. That second quarter though was outstanding by him, and you can see he's a confidence player. When he's on, he's going to be a tough one to stop. And he had some tough shots in that first. They weren't just open shots that he was knocking down. So I think he's only going to get better the more he feels comfortable. And you add Giddey, Brandon Paul, and then Daniel Johnson, and you've got a good combination right there. And if they get Isaac Humphries back at some stage as well, they're going to be that's 4 legit players who could be in the All-Star 5 at some stage.
Yeah, absolutely. I think they've got the makings there of a good team. Sunday Detch and Jack McVeigh are handy backups, and then they've got their second import, Tony Crocker, who suddenly becomes sort of that 6th or 7th man as well. So I think they've got the makings of something there, but gee, they just can't have a second half like they did on Sunday. Connor Henry pretty well. How would have he responded to a second half like that? And how will he have his team ready to respond, especially on Monday night when they do come to Perth?
Well, it was a hard one to watch from, I guess, if you're a 36ers fan, because they played so well in the first half. And then as a coach, can you really – you almost need to settle them down. I think the tendency for Connor is to get on his guys and trying to rile them up that way, but that's probably not what the team needed. And I didn't see him, I guess approaching them in kind of almost yelling and screaming type of way. But it was one of those things where sometimes as a young player in a young club, you have to go through those things, and there's no other way than to learn it than just experience it. And it's got to be frustrating as a coach and as a fan as well as they played in that first half. But I think they'll be a better team and they're still in the contention. They're not a team that's dropping out, and so you'd like to think that they would have learned a lot from that. But I guess it's disappointing if you're a 36ers fan to just to play so well in one half and then so poorly in the second half was an interesting result.
Now, this is really going to test your memory, but the last game that Connor coached you at the Wildcats was that famous game against the Crocs where they eliminated you. Do you remember what he was like at halftime of that game?
Oh, no, that's going back. I do usually remember our losses, but that was a frustrating game. I think we kind of felt like we deserved to get that one as of the season that we had. It was a little bit up and down, but credit to them, they played quite well. But that was a strange season all around. I just kind of never felt like we didn't have our personnel right. I don't think. I think we were kind of loaded up in the 3-4 spot, and the other spots we probably. We never really found that mix that worked. I didn't think.
I think you're right. Have you seen Connor since that night?
Yeah, I think I've seen him because he was coaching with the Sydney Kings for a little while. So yeah, I ran into him up at in some preseason games and that type of thing. So we definitely have seen each other and had a chat about it. So
okay, very good. Now, since the NBA, well, actually, before we move on from the NBL Cup, what's your overall opinion on it now that it's been completed? It was a month in Melbourne. Everyone played everyone. I think by the end of it, most players and coaches seem to be pretty much craving the end of it. Maybe it was a little bit long in the finish, but overall, what was your impressions of it?
Look, I think it was good from the NBL. I think they needed to do something to be proactive in case something does happen later in the season. I'm probably in the mindset it probably was a little bit too long. Maybe you kind of have a little tournament format where everyone goes and plays off, and if you lose, you go home. I don't know. I think there's some ways to do it to kind of capture the attention a little bit better. I think, if you're in one city that many games, it's going to be hard to get fans and everyone to kind of tune in. But I kind of like a little tournament format, maybe come together, knockout tournament, big prize money at the end, something to play for. And maybe you kind of get seeded by how you finished last year's regular season. Yep. So you come together You play, obviously, if they did it next year, I don't know where the jack jumpers get seeded, but probably most likely 10th. And maybe 1-2 get a bye, and the other teams play off, and then big prize money at the end for it. I would love to see that. I think that would be exciting, and just move it around to different cities as well, and give, and possibly even some regional areas where they get a chance to see some NBL action and see teams playing. But I'm kind of a big fan more of the tournament rather than say everyone play each other all at one time. But I think it was just more of a COVID response than anything. But I do like getting a tournament, and who can win a preseason, who can win an in-season tournament, the regular season, and then also the grand final. That'd be interesting to see if some team could complete all four.
Yeah, I agree. I like your thinking. Now, since it finished on Sunday, there's been no shortage of big news right around the league, Shawn. So let's get through some of these biggest talking points. So Lamar Patterson is obviously, he's been a big talking point the whole season, and he still is. So once the NBL Cup finished, the New Zealand Breakers granted him his release, and Dan Shamir didn't hold back when he talked about how unhappy he was with the way he I guess the way he presented himself once he arrived here to play this season. So clearly no love lost there. But as soon as he was released, the Brisbane Bullets snapped him up and signed him again after he'd spent the last 2 seasons there. And in response, Brisbane released Orlando Johnson, and the Breakers have now already signed their new import, Levi Randolph. Get your head around all of that.
Yeah, it happened so quickly. And, Brisbane, obviously, I think that's a good move for them. They weren't getting a whole lot out of Orlando Johnson. I don't think he had kind of settled into his role yet. He had shown moments of brilliance, but, Lamar Patterson, we know what he's capable of. He just hasn't. I don't know if it's more the system of coming into the Breakers, if he was out of shape. He kind of, his body type almost makes him look out of shape all the time. Yeah. And that's what I thought when I first saw him come to the NBL. But, he proved us all wrong that he can play and make a difference. So I think he's going to feel more comfortable going back to Brisbane. And I'll be interested to see how the difference in his play. Does he come out and be the same Lamar Patterson? Then we know it was just maybe a systems thing with the Breakers. Or is he, not 100%, not fit, and, he's just his play has declined. I don't know. We'll find out probably in the first few weeks once he gets healthy and able to play for the Breakers. But, I think the Breakers also needed to do something they weren't happy with, and we talked about that. If you're going to make a move, you got to make a move now. There's not a whole lot that Tom, by the time these players have to go through quarantine. And then the other interesting thing, what does Orlando Johnson do? Because if I'm him, I'm just hanging around here. I don't know what his contract is, but hanging around because there's going to be a team that needs someone pretty soon. And, he's a quality player. I don't think it's not that he's not capable of putting up good numbers. It may have just been a systems thing as well with him, and teams are going to need someone in a pinch if there is an injury to one of their key guys. So, you might be preempting what I was going to say later. So why don't I jump to my surprise that I was going to announce later on and talk about it now? I see Orlando Johnson as the absolute perfect fit for the Perth Wildcats if they have an import spot open. If Bryce Cotton gets his citizenship, to me, right now they're either starting Luke Travers, Jared Bairstow, or Clint Steindl in that forward spot. I see Orlando Johnson as a significant upgrade on any of those, and to me, he's a great fit. He would be either the third option behind Cotton and Mooney, or even maybe the fourth option behind Blanchfield as well. But he's shown he can be a pretty good defender. He can shoot the ball, he can finish, but he can also be a role player as well, so he doesn't necessarily need the ball. And the Wildcats don't want someone to come in and dominate. To me, he would be the perfect signing for the Wildcats, especially because he wouldn't need to quarantine. He knows the league already, and I guess the day after Bryce gets his citizenship, he could be ready to play. Yeah, I'm not so sold on that, Pikey.
Okay.
He is available. I think that's his biggest attractiveness. But I kind of see him more as a 2-3 than, say, a 4-man.
Okay.
In the way that I've seen him play. Maybe you've seen something that I haven't seen, but he seems to be more kind of in that 2-3 spot where I kind of feel like the Wildcats need a 4-5. But I think
you're right about that. But right now, I mean, he's a similar player to Clint Steindl, isn't he? Who did start on the weekend.
Yeah, I think there's some, and maybe you bring him over and start having him train with the club and just kind of see where if he is the right fit, and you kind of get a free pass there, and he can kind of get comfortable. And if you feel like he is, you sign him. If you don't, you don't sign him, and he can go on his to his next team, and the Wildcats can look for someone. So it's going to be something where probably the Wildcats going to need to make that determination though pretty soon, depending on the quarantine and flights and all that stuff that might happen. So I could see that as an option. I'm sure they probably explored it a little bit.
Well, let me throw another idea your way. Would he fit at Melbourne United?
Yeah, I see him more fitting at a Melbourne United than the Wildcats. I think United could use that kind of 3-man. I mean, they got Scotty Hobson, but he's injured at the moment, so maybe he comes in and that 2-3 kind of spark. Yeah, I feel like Melbourne United could use a little 4-man as well in that import spot to kind of free up Jock Landale at times. So there's some interesting moves that they could make, but I'm sure both those teams are exploring. Where is he? Is he flown back to his home, or is he still in Australia?
Well, once he leaves, he's almost out of contention, isn't he? So he kind of, if he wants to be any chance, he has to hang around for a little while.
Yeah, I mean, if I was his manager, I'd be on the phone with every NBL club and just kind of seeing is there an opportunity, and get him down there to start training to show him what he's capable of.
Now, the unfortunate news out of this week, Shawn, and we have to touch on it. We don't have to go into great detail about the circumstances, but Mitch Creek, he's now been, I guess, indefinitely stood down from his duties at the Phoenix after being charged with assault. So I think that's the right move. First of all, I think until it plays out in the court, I think the league and the club has made the right move by standing him down. In a basketball sense, what does it do to the Southeast Melbourne Phoenix? I think they were a real championship threat once they'd added Brokov, and knowing that they still had Dane Pino to come back. They've still got Adam Gibson to come back, and Kiefer Sykes is just about ready to come back as well. And they did finish the NBL Cup on a winning streak and in second position. If Mitch Creek isn't able to come back, what does it do to them as a team?
Yeah, I'm going to find it really hard for them to stay in contention without Mitch Creek. He's kind of that heart and soul of the team, and it's an unfortunate incident. I hope it plays out positive for him in the end, is because I probably would like to see him back playing in the NBL, because he's such a great player, and I think he's done a lot of good things for the Phoenix. He's kind of been the face of that club to the start, but I think the league and the club is doing the right thing by staying him down at this stage, letting that all play out. But it's a hard one to take if you're a Mitch Creek fan, which I'm sure there's a lot of those out there. And I think there's a lot of players and people that kind of looked up to Mitch Creek as a huge role model for what he's been able to do. For me personally, I was a huge fan of just seeing his growth. I just remember when he came from the AIS, and he started out in the Adelaide 36ers and just kind of blossomed. You don't see many guys really kind of slowly improve, and then all of a sudden it's like he's arrived, and he's one of the best players in the NBL. So it's been fun for me to kind of see his growth as a player, coming in as an 18-year-old in such big reps. But the thing I loved that he was such a hard worker. It seemed like he was always improving. So it's a tough one if you're an NBL fan. And, we don't know the exact circumstances around it. There's no a whole lot of details released about it, but let's hope, from Mitch Creek's point of view that, that they come out and, he can be, it's not as bad as it looks, and hopefully, things will play out. And, but if he is guilty and that type of thing, then that's the right call. He shouldn't be out there representing the NBL and the Southeast Melbourne Phoenix, but we don't know that till it plays out.
Let me ask, this is a tough question. If he is found guilty, should he be allowed to play in the league again? Or if he's found guilty, have we seen the last of him?
Yeah, that's an interesting one. I certainly think there'd be a time where he needs to be away from the game.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's a permanent ban. I don't know the exact circumstances around it to be able to comment fully on that. But it's going to be an interesting one. I don't know if we've had to really deal with that here in the NBL, where you've had such
there's nothing that's
for a long time, at least certainly since I've been here, where it's been like a real, superstar in our league had to deal with something like that. Maybe you might be better, but I'm trying to recall where we haven't.
Out to me. No.
So it'll be interesting to see how the league takes that. And let's be honest, the thing, probably over the last couple of years, the tolerance to something like this is gone a lot lower, and and rightfully so. And so it's going to take a lot more for a club to be able to sign a guy like that if he is guilty. I could see him if he, after all this plays out, all the legal things play out, potentially having to go overseas to play before coming back at that. Yeah. If he does get a chance to play back in the NBL.
Yeah, I think you're right, but let's just hope for the best. Let's hope that he didn't do it, and let's hope that it all plays out like that. So I guess that's all we can say about it at this point. It's a pretty heavy way to finish that first segment, Shawn. So it might be a good time to let Damian Martin lighten things up, and when we come back, he'll be back with the Damo Award, thanks to Boomering. Okay, thanks to Boomering once again. I'm joined by Damian Martin for the Damo Award. Before we get to the defensive maestros of this week, Damo, how did you come away from the NBL Cup feeling? Were you a fan of the whole thing?
I was. I absolutely loved the concept of pretty much every second day there was a double header, and then come the weekend, you just go home from work or wherever you've been, sit on the couch, and there's basketball to be watched, and at a high level. So not only were the games entertaining, but just the fact that there was so many of them in such a short period of time. Obviously I love the NBA, and it's like having the NBA, but teams that are actually trying to play full quarters of basketball opposed to the NBA, where it kind of feels like only a handful of teams believe they can win and they only play the fourth quarter. So, I just thought, going into it, I had my doubts about whether, players are going to be able to back up so quickly, because it is out of the norm, living out of a hotel in a suitcase for so long. Instead, the basketball was as good as we've ever seen. So I was a huge fan of it. Obviously the Wildcats to win 7 out of 8 games is incredible, living away from home and under those circumstances. Southeast Melbourne obviously made a late run. Brisbane were fantastic. So everyone was probably thinking, Melbourne are going into this, undefeated and playing at home, so they're going to be the hot favourite. And instead they showed that they're capable of losing and losing consecutively.
Are you surprised how good the Wildcats have been able to get themselves, in the first half of this season? You take out, we talk about the players that have lost. You take out yourself, you take out Nick Kay, you take out Tariko White, you take out Miles Plumlee. There was a lot of players lost from last year, and I guess that's why a lot of people were starting to think, the streak might be over. But right now, they have to be the championship favourites.
Yeah, I thought that I was playing very good team basketball and then allowing their superstar to take over when he felt like it. So Bryce always has a green light from tip-off to the final siren, but the reality is he still plays within a structure. But when there's times where you give it to him, he just goes a bit of ISO ball or an on-ball. everybody's more than happy for that, but it's got to be a nice mix of it. At times in the past where we just relied on that style too much, it was probably negative for us, whereas right now it's that beautiful balance of ball reversal, making the extra pass. Obviously, Toddy Blanchfield's playing great basketball at the moment. Mooney's probably better than most people were expecting. He has been brilliant. I thought Nordo was probably the unsung hero of the tournament. They're just defensively getting the guys into the offensive structures, mixing up their defenses. I love seeing that being called from Nordo. And then Jesse Wagstaff's just shooting the ball out, out of the lights. So shooting the lights out, he's been brilliant as well. So I think a lot of guys are stepping up, embracing their role, playing it to a really high level. But at the end of the day, it's that old cliche of it is Wildcats basketball, but obviously any team with Bryce Cotton is obviously going to have a foot in the door and looking pretty good. So no, I thought they played very impressive basketball, but so did a lot of other teams, and I just loved watching. I mean, the level that Sobey is playing at, we talk about Bryce being an MVP, and don't get me wrong, I think he is right now, but Sobey is out of this world good right now, which is just fun to watch more than anything. Cole Adnan was great for the tournament. There's a number of players I could throw out there. It's just been fantastic.
Now, as you know, I do a 36ers show with Scott Ninnis as well, and every week he talks about how no matter what, the Wildcats just love inflicting pain on the 36ers, and he's got 30 years of reflecting on it from his career. Did you sense that during your career? Did you just love breaking the hearts of the 36ers, just like the team did on Sunday?
Well, you are very much aware of the rivalry when you join the Wildcats. Obviously, proximity-wise, they're the closest team to Perth, and that history is long and rich. I think they're second with the second most amount of championships, or third. So, there's been success from both clubs. But then there's also some matchups and games in particular. That Valentine's Day massacre where Joey Wright punched our assistant coach Adam Tatalovich. There's been a lot of scuffles throughout the years. So it is a game that it doesn't matter where either team is sitting on the ladder. You do get excited for because both teams are going to play hard, play aggressive, and every possession matters. So diving on a loose ball becomes a non-negotiable. Boxing out, bumping the cutters. So it's a lot of fun, but you certainly get into the locker room after the game and know you've had to earn that win if you're fortunate enough to get it.
Now let's get on to our votes for this week. There's a lot of good defensive performances this week. Now we won't get to our 3 votes to start with. Let's start with the one vote, and I think this man's wildly underrated as a defender. I remember back to his Taipans days, he was a really good defender and doesn't get talked about a lot, but I'm glad he's got a vote this week.
Yeah, and it's funny because he's actually the league leader in steals right now. I mean, let's not sugarcoat it. It wasn't just this round he's played well. I think he had some back issues the last couple of seasons, so maybe he wasn't as mobile. But this is the guy that a few years ago, and in particular when he was in Cairns, they're throwing alley-oop plays for him. They're running alley-oop plays. So he is a legit athlete, and he actually looks like he's fit, healthy, moving well, and it's really being reflected at the defensive end. So Cam Glidden, he's league leader, like I said, with 2.1 steals per game. I thought he was fantastic over the weekend, not just, getting a handful of steals, but being a lockdown defender. So we think of him as a three-point shooter and an incredible free throw shooter and scorer, but, yeah, defensively I thought he was fantastic. So the one vote this week goes to Glidden.
Yeah, and he's always the man that his coach always throws onto Bryce Cotton more often than not, so that probably says it all. 2 votes. Now, this man has certainly cemented himself as one of our best defenders, hasn't he? And he had another pretty good week.
Yeah, it's hard to go by him, whether they win or lose, whether he puts up 10 or 15 points or single digits. But Simon, again, from Illawarra, I think this is about the 3rd or 4th time I voted for him. He's just consistently good. He's freakishly athletic. He reads the play well. He's not afraid to leave his man to go and make plays, whether it's a double team to go and block a shot, to go get a big defensive rebound, whatever it may be. But, yeah, I just love paying attention to him when he's out there. And instead of ball watching, I like to just see what he's doing off the ball. And, yeah, he's a legitimate superstar at the defensive end in this league. He's only averaging about 20-odd minutes a game. But when he's out there, he makes the most of it, that's for sure. And yeah, he is fun to watch purely from a defensive perspective, in my opinion.
Now, your 3 votes, and you made it clear to me when you told me that this is your award, so you can do whatever you like, and I'm in no position to argue, but clearly you liked what the Wildcats did defensively last week, Damo.
Look, and specifically the 3rd quarter. I mean, don't get me wrong, to go on a 19-zip run to start the 3rd when you've been humiliated in the first half is not an easy feat. Not only did they get credit for those 19 points, but to hold them to 0, the Wildcats offense, best offense, always comes after stops. So for them to be able to string together stops, when they can get out and run, kick the ball ahead, get into some drag, on-ball screens, spot up shooters, get on the ring, live at the free free throw line, whatever it may be. That is off getting stops. When they're constantly taking it out of the net and have to play a slower version of the game, it's not as successful. So for them to, I don't know what Trev said to them in the locker room or what the leaders stepped up and said, but it certainly worked. And when you're down by that many at half-time, a lot of it's internally driven as well. So, yeah, to give out the defensive votes, I couldn't go past one quarter in particular and three players in particular. Bryce Cotton, who I probably could have given votes to in other games as well, but, he's third in the league in steals. Last year he led the league in steals. Some people give him a bit of a knock at the defensive end. I don't think he deserves that at all. When you're that good offensively and you're still playing that hard and that well defensively, it is incredible. But because of how talented he is with the ball, people just assume he must be a liability at the other end, and he is far from it. His quick hands, that one play on Sunday, Sunday was spotting up to shoot a three. Gets a steal, they get out, run, and, that was a defining moment, I thought, in the game. So he has to have some of the quickest hands in the game right now. He was great. John Mooney certainly deserves to be in the talks for Defensive Player of the Year. He's in the top 10 for rebounds, steals, and block shots. He's dominating the rebound count. Don't get me wrong, he's averaging over 10 rebounds a game, but he's up there with steals and points. And if anyone decided they want to start counting deflections, I have no doubt he'd be in the top 10 for that. He's just got a high basketball IQ, a willingness to play every possession, and, a desire to win. You combine those three things with a hell of a lot of skill, and you get a player that's probably going to be first team All NBL. And then, Nordo, I mentioned him earlier in the segment. He just shows his hands, he slides his feet, he fights over every on-ball screen, and he does it every time. So it's just the course of that wear and tear by breaking his plays because they know they're not going to get any easy possessions. So he's not getting as many steals as, say, Bryce is or Mooney, but he gets put on the opposition's best point guard or shooting guard, stays in front of them, makes it tough for them, and kind of plays the numbers game. If I contest 100% of your shots, you're going to miss quite a few, regardless of how talented they are. So he doesn't get many blocks, he doesn't get many steals, but he does contest everything and does a hell of a job out of it. He's probably one of the best in sliding his feet in the league. So, yeah, I know I'm breaking the rules this week. I probably got caught up in the moment of the third quarter, and I was like, no, I'm just giving. I didn't want to go all five. I thought they might have been pushing it, but I had to give those three because they are the backbone of the Wildcats defensive end. Jesse's continuing to take a lot of charges, but those three in particular I thought were just brilliant.
I don't think anyone is in a position to argue with you, Damo, so make up your own rules, do what you like. When you've got the history that you produced as a defender, no one's in a position to argue. But I don't even disagree. I totally agree because especially with what they had to turn around. I mean, Adelaide put up 60 points in that first half, and they, DJ was on fire, Brandon Paul was on fire on debut, Sunday Detch was on fire. They actually had to stop a team that was on fire, and then they held them scoreless for more than 5 minutes.
Yeah, it wasn't a 30-point half, the Adelaide 36ers scored. They had their eye in, they were full of confidence. It is hard to stop a team that's full of momentum, full of confidence, and that's certainly what Adelaide had coming into the third quarter. So, and I know we're here to talk defense, but Paul, what a debut. I can't wait to watch him again, but that's for another segment. Maybe you can talk to Shawn about offense. We'll see how we go there. But no, it's been an incredible 4 weeks in the hub. Some teams are going home with a bit of extra money, and now hopefully it's a bit of normality. I know RAC Arena can have 75% capacity, so that'll be a sellout at that level on Friday night, and then they'll back it up on Monday. And the other teams who can finally return home, sleep in their own beds, play in their own arenas. I'm just over the moon that they're returning to their families and normal lifestyle, or as close to it as possible at least.
You're looking forward to getting back there? When do we get to see you on the microphone this weekend?
Yeah, I'll be there on Monday calling the game. So Shawn has Friday night's game. I'll be calling the Adelaide one. So if the 36ers are up by 20 at halftime and I'm interviewing Connor Henry, you can probably guess what the question's going to be. But no, I'm looking forward to seeing the boys out there live, both teams, because like I said, it's one game, but I loved what I saw from Paul. Everyone knows I'm a huge fan of Sunday. I think DJ is just being DJ again, another all-star type of season coming up. They're obviously missing Humphreys, but they've got enough talent around there to get some wins, and they will trouble the Wildcats, make no doubt about that. They had to come up with one of the most incredible comebacks I've seen.
Last question, and I've been meaning to ask you this for a couple of weeks, Damo. Can you tell us a bit more about your Everlast drinks that you're part of?
Yeah, if anyone's out here in Perth and in an IGA or a Farmer Jack's or some of the petrol stations, you can pick up a sports drink. So it's an isotonic sports drink, and you got my corny mug wearing a Boomers jersey on there. So, no, it's been fun to be a part of. And then what started purely just as an ambassador role, I've now become a shareholder and enjoying trying to promote it and, make it bigger and better. And it's a Perth guy that you've basically got to the highest level he could with Coca-Cola in Australia, who owned Powerade or Gatorade. Before he'd have to make the move to America if he wanted to, continue to climb the corporate ladder. He got offered that job and then decided, no, I've got young kids, I want to move back to Perth. He was living in Melbourne at the time, came back home and decided, I know everything there is to know about making these drinks. I'm going to go out on my own. So credit to him, Everlast is obviously a multi-billion-dollar clothing apparel brand, but they didn't have a sports drink license. So he went and got that, and off to the races we go. So it's early days, but it's a lot of fun just learning something new and something different from, offenses, defenses, and trying to put them all through the hoop, or more importantly, giving it to Bryce to put through. So it's just fun learning something a little bit different.
No, fantastic. So if anyone does get a chance and sees them in a store, make sure you give them a try. But we're also here thanks to Boomering. So if you need a basketball set up in your backyard or wherever you are, head to Boomering. But Damo, thanks again for joining us once again, and look forward to seeing what sort of new rules you come up with for your award next week.
I promise everyone's going to think I'm biased because of the Wildcats. If another team goes on a 19-zip run when they're down 20 and it's off the backbone of defence, I'll find 3 candidates for them to give the 3 points to. So you've got my word on that.
I'll hold you to that. But thanks, Damo.
Thanks, Pikey.
Okay, back now on Hoop 7's Basketball Hustle. Thank you to Damian Martin and Boomering for the Damo Award. Now, I'm back with the scoring machine, Shawn Redhage. Got to get your thoughts on what we just heard from Damo, Shawn. He gave 3 lots of 3 votes, all to Wildcats players. So Bryce Cotton, John Mooney, Mitch Norton, all got 3 votes from him this week. What are your thoughts?
Well, leave it to Damo to kind of... Is that allowed in the Damo Award?
Well, he told me that it's his award, so he makes up his own rules. So okay. That was the end of it.
Well, there we go. Well, I mean, Sunday Detch didn't get any awards after having to guard the 2 best players in the league. So it was, I found it interesting to get three votes. Is it more the second half? Because second half they were outstanding. So maybe they should each get 1.5, because the first half their defense was poor. They gave up 60 points to the Adelaide 36ers.
Well, the way he described it was basically for the first 5 minutes of the third quarter.
All right, so maybe they get 0.3 each. But, I'll leave that to Damo. He's the expert in the leaderboard. You still got Sunday Detch up there with 11. And Justin Salmon in 6. So you just never know what to expect from Damo, and that's why we love him.
Absolutely. So, yep, that was the Damo Award. Now let's get on to the TABtouch Preview. We'll have the tips from Matty Knight as well as we go along and get your thoughts on the games now in round 10 of the NBL, Shawn. It starts Friday night, and it's a tantalising one. So we've got the Sydney Kings at home to Melbourne United. We've got Matty Knight tipping Melbourne United. TABtouch have got the Sydney Kings as favourites at $1.81, Melbourne United at $2. Melbourne United on a 3-game losing streak, which only a few weeks ago we thought they might go through the season undefeated. What are your thoughts on this one?
Well, look, I actually really like the United in this one. Mm-hmm. The Kings, I think they're just one of those teams that's just really up and down. And I think United actually losing 3. They got... most of their guys back and a lot of their key guys. So I think they're going to find their groove and get a win in this one. So if you're looking to take a punt, I'm picking Melbourne United. I think that's good value at $2.
Now, the second game on Friday night, you'll be there in person. We've got the Perth Wildcats and the Cairns Taipans. So the form team in the league in the Wildcats, they're 122. And the Taipans are the strugglers right now. They finished last at the NBL Cup and they're sitting last overall, and they're paying $4.20. Any hope for the Taipans?
Look, I'm not going to discount the Taipans. I think that they've got a chance anytime you got Machado and Cam Oliver. And Cam Oliver's played some and both of them actually, Machado's played some really good games at RAC Arena. So that's not going to scare them. It'd be a matter of can they get more from the other guys. But, I mean, you got to like the form that the Wildcats are playing. You just kind of wonder if by coming home, do they kind of feel a little bit more comfortable? They had 7 out of 8 games in the NBL Cup. Sometimes you just kind of can relax a little bit. So I'll be interested to see how they come out in the first quarter. You know, they come out with that intensity that they're excited to play at home, or they've kind of just like, we can relax a little bit now that we've gotten home and we're in a familiar territory.
Yeah, it's a big job, but yeah, I mean the Taipans hadn't won a game early last season. Then they came over to Perth and handed the Wildcats their biggest ever loss at RAC Arena. So they're capable of it. So we'll wait and see. Now on Saturday, this game is very interesting. Southeast Melbourne Phoenix, obviously now without Mitch Creek, but I think Dane Pino will be back. I'm not sure about Kyle Adams' fitness after he rolled his ankle last week on Sunday. I don't think Kiefer Sykes is ready to come back. So very much an up and down sort of personnel issue for the Phoenix. I don't know about Ryan Brokaw's fitness either, so we'll wait and see. But then the Adelaide 36ers still without Isaac Humphries, but Brandon Paul should be better for the run. This is an interesting one back in Melbourne. So we've got the Phoenix on TABtouch $1.55, the 36ers are $2.45. Matty Knight sticking with the Phoenix. What do you think, Shawn?
I got the 36ers in this one. I think that's the best value in the round. I mean, look at the guys that they're missing. I mean, Mitch Creek is their heart and soul of that club. Kiefer Sykes, those are their 2 best players. And against the 36ers team who almost should have probably knocked off the best team or hottest team in the league at the moment in the Wildcats just a few days ago. So I think the 36ers are going to get this one.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised, especially with what's happening at the Phoenix, and you would have to be pumped up after giving up what the 36ers did. Now, the second game on Saturday is in Brisbane. It's the Brisbane Bullets and the New Zealand Breakers. So on TABtouch, the Bullets favourite 150, the Breakers are 260. Matt is sticking with the Bullets, but there's all sorts of injury clouds over some of the Bullets' best players, including their 2 imports who have been sent for COVID tests, and it's a race against time to see if they can get their results back to be allowed to play tomorrow. And Nathan Sobey's amongst the others that are in doubt, having pulled up sick in the last 24 hours. But as we know, the Breakers aren't exactly, full deck either. So this is a fascinating one. We just don't know who's going to be out there.
And where is Lamar Patterson? Is he back yet, or is he
not right to go? No, so
he's still not right. No. So yeah, it's a tough one. I'm probably going to go with the Bullets, the fact that they're at home. But if they're missing Nathan Sobey, obviously Orlando Johnson's gone. They've, they're down a few bodies there, and obviously the COVID test, they've still got to get results back. You'd think that they would get those back by the time game time starts. But I'm going to go with the Bullets, but I could see the Breakers picking this one up, depending if Nathan Sobey plays. To me, that's the key. If he plays, Bullets win. If he doesn't, Breakers win.
Yep, tough to argue. Now, on Sunday, this is another fascinating one. I think it's in Bendigo. So we've got Melbourne United playing the Illawarra Hawks, who, just last week, the Hawks handed United a pretty handy loss.
Yeah, and the Hawks are, it was a good win for them. They picked up a few good wins in the NBL Cup and had a couple of shocking losses, but they're going to be up and down. I still think United get this one, just the fact that they're playing in Victoria, and they're going to have a Bendigo crowd behind them. So I think United, I think they're going to start getting on a winning streak.
You'd think so. Then second up on Sunday, the Sydney Kings at home to the Cairns Taipans.
Yeah, I think the Kings, Taipans got to play in Perth on Friday, travel Saturday, play Sunday. That's tough. And they just haven't been the team that everyone expected this year. Sitting bottom of the ladder, I think everyone kind of thought they'd be top 4, possibly even top 2 with their personnel. So, but I think Kings, being able to stay at home, they'll be ready for the Taipans on Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, Matty Knight agrees. And then last up, Monday night, RAC Arena, Perth Wildcats and the Adelaide 36ers, rematch from Sunday. Can the 36ers turn it around, or is Perth too strong at home?
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Wildcats. I think it's tough to beat the Wildcats. The one wild card for me, I kind of look at Brandon Paul and the fact that, he has played in big arenas. It just seems like that guy who the big moment's not going to faze him. If he has another blinder for a full 40 minutes, he could put that team into contention. And another couple games between Giddey and Paul. Giddey is clearly one of the best passers in the league, and definitely the best passer under the age of 20. Is I think they're going to find each other a little bit more. So I think Brandon Paul, if he can have a massive game, it would give the 36ers a chance, but I think it's going to be tough for them to knock off the Wildcats.
You'd think so, but yeah, a lot to look forward to. Conor Henry's first game as a head coach against the Wildcats in Perth as well, so that's something else to look forward to. So that was the TABtouch preview. Of course, thanks to TABtouch and tabtouch.com.au, and go and check out all of the NBL betting markets for this weekend's games, and of course check out the social media channels on later today on Friday, and you can find out what both Shawn Redhage and Matty Knight have taken as their multi-bets for this week as they try to continue to raise money for charity. So remember to gamble responsibly, but also take on their advice, because you'd hope that eventually they'll get something right. So we'll stick with their advice, and thanks to TABtouch for their support, and of course thanks to Hoop 7 for making Hoop 7's basketball hustle possible. Check them out at hoop7.com.au. Been a lot to get through. Some heavy topics, some lighthearted topics this week, Shawn. Plenty of NBL discussion, and I hope everyone's enjoyed listening to it. Thanks to Damian Martin and Boomering once again. Thanks to Matty Knight and TABtouch for their support. But I'll sign off for this week and leave you with the final words from the scoring machine.
Yes, final words from the scoring machine. Look, I was interested to hear Jesse Wagstaff's comments when he finally arrived back in Perth, and he said the thing he was looking forward to was mowing the lawn. So maybe tune in on Friday night, and maybe if I get a chance, I might ask Jesse Wagstaff, did he get his lawn mowed in the lead up to the game on Friday night?